Good old ONM. I probably wouldn't be as big a gamer as I am without it. Now, in many of the issues, they'd often bring up a game called No More Heroes. It always looked really cool to me, but that was back when I wasn't allowed to play 16+ rated games. But now that this series will be returning later in the year, it's time for me to finally look at said game and see if it was worth getting excited about. Getting straight into the plot, it follows Travis Touchdown, your average anime lover who tells us via narration that he met a hot chick in a bar one day named Sylvia. She gives him a job to kill an assassin, to which Travis accepts due to being broke. He succeeds, and then sets out to become the #1 assassin in Santa Destroy, and that's the game. As you can tell, it's not exactly a complex narrative, but Suda51, the game's director, is a bit of a hand-me-down Kojima, and thus brings the same kind of unique quirkiness and style to his game. None of the enemy assassins are particularly well developed, but they all stand out and are good fun to watch, though they appear briefly. Travis is a decently likeable lead, and although in a more serious game I'd critique his sudden character changes...
Hey, when I hit #1, you better be looking your best.
Are we suddenly in love, Travis?
Hell no.
It kind of works here because it's just that kind of game. And this kind of game has a juvenile sense of humour that won't appeal to everyone, but I have to say, there are times when it is quite funny. It's not what you'd call clever or witty, but it's hard not to grin at times. But even though this is a story you're not supposed to take seriously, I won't lie, I found the ending to be really underwhelming. Even the game acknowledges it's silly, but it lacks any real sense of satisfying conclusion, and seeing as it's the last thing most players will see, I walked away with a bad taste in my mouth. Despite that, the journey beforehand is really enjoyable. It's simple but with a unique style that really worked for me, and it's overall good fun. It's also a plot that works as a foil for the gameplay, but how well do they complement each other? The game has a very noticeable rhythm. Before you can take care of each assassin, you have to pay a fee to partake in a ranking battle, so you'll have to earn some cash in the open world of Santa Destroy. It's not a hugely memorable world, most of the streets just blend together, but it is quick to navigate and fun to traverse on Travis's motorbike. Anyway, you have two options when it comes to making money. First of all, you can choose between a selection of part-time jobs, which compared to the chaos of the rest of the game, are hilariously mundane. There's lawn mowing, you can pick up junk or fill up cars with petrol, among a few more. They're actually quite fun. Yes, they're simple and don't require much skill, but they can be somewhat satisfying regardless. You start out with only this coconut collector mission, but after each boss, a new one is unlocked, so on and so forth. And after you complete a job for the first time, you'll unlock some assassination missions, which is the other way to make money. Most of the time it's kill all the enemies in one location, but other times it's a bit more interesting, such as having to kill one mandatory target, you might not be allowed to be hit, and a few more creative ones. These are also good, but a bit more repetitive. Quite a few of them tend to reuse locations, so the new ones aren't as interesting to try out as much as the jobs, but they're still enjoyable regardless. Some of you might be wondering if this game gets repetitive, doing the same types of missions fairly regularly. I have to say, I expected it to become so, but it doesn't. Getting the right amount of money never took that long for me, so there wasn't enough time for it to become tiring. And that nicely transitions us into what happens when you do get enough money. You're given a location to drive to, and once you arrive, you'll have to fight through the area. And that transitions us nicely into the combat, aka the bulk of the game. Travis's weapon of choice is a beam katana, and you use it to whack enemies into exploding pixels. This being a Wii game, you'd assume it required good use of the Wii remote, but it actually doesn't. Yes, you may have to tilt it in such a way to hit certain enemies with weapons, and swinging it is required to kill them, but to inflict damage before the kill, you mash the A button. Wrestling moves can also be used, there's some special moves, and that's this game's combat. It's certainly simple, but it's actually quite satisfying, and much like the jobs, you'd assume it gets repetitive, but for some reason it doesn't, at least for me. Chances are, if you really like complex hack and slash games that require a lot of skill, then this one will become a bit stale after all. But I had a lot of fun killing my foes throughout the game.
But what about the actual assassins themselves?
At the end of each ranking battle, you, unsurprisingly, go toe-to-toe with one of the assassins in a boss fight. The earlier fights are simple with little strategies that differ between them, but as the game progresses, I was either really put to the test, or was just having a blast with unique and creative fights. As for the former, my earlier statement about there not being much skill required for the game is tossed out of the window, and I was left with scenarios where both me and the enemy were down to very low health. I'm fine. Killing those tough foes isn't as satisfying as it ought to be. I was more relieved than anything else, but they still made for a damn good challenge. And even when they weren't too hard, I still had a lot of fun making my way through the ranks of the Assassin's Guild. Once you defeat the boss, you get returned to Travis's apartment where you're given a new amount of money to make, and the whole process starts up again. The game has a very good pace to it that keeps it moving along nicely. There's never enough time given to each activity for them to become dull, and with a length of nearly 9 hours, it's impressive that Suda51 and Co. managed to keep this game as consistently enjoyable as it is for that runtime. No More Heroes isn't a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it does what any game should do and is fun. It has very satisfying gameplay supported by a unique style and enjoyably quirky story. Despite ending on a disappointing note, everything beforehand means that I look forward to checking out the rest of Travis's adventures. But as for this one, I'll give it a score of 88%. I've waited a few years to finally play this game, and I'm happy to report that it delivered.
Yeah, I don't know if you could tell, but there's work being done to the house at the moment, well, this room specifically, so that's why it's kind of like this and why it's so damn echoey as well, so hopefully that didn't get too annoying for you. Boy.